Hello there. I am Anna Woldrich. I'm from the Austrian Academy of Sciences in Vienna, and I am hosting this meeting. I'm looking very much forward to a nice session, and I'd like to point out as well that you can follow our discussion as well on Twitter under the hashtag Ignite Roundtable. And now I'm going to introduce you to our moderator for this session, Marianne Ping Huang, who is an associate professor and an academic developer at Aarhus University. She's deeply involved in building cultural creative collaborations, international networks and research applications, as well as cross-sectoral capacity building. Marianne is an academic developer with a history of working in the research, teaching and knowledge sharing, and she gathered experience and leadership in working across disciplines and sectors with arts, creativity and innovation, as well as cultural creative industries. Hi, Marianne.
Hello. Thank you, Anna. And I'll be moderating today, and I'm very, very happy to welcome you all to the Ignite Digital Roundtables on design thinking and maker culture, where we'll explore how sticky learning for the 20th century is created. And I think this is something that will also take us into contributions for what we could call the new normal, which comes after the COVID-19 crisis. So we'll be hosting these digital roundtables on Wednesday afternoons throughout April. And we hope to have you with us again to explore how we can leverage digital technologies and new methods of teaching. Today we have three amazing, wonderful speakers with us. Reya Saliba from Qatar, Barbara Heinisch from Vienna, and Martin Gerner, who's based with Frankfurt University and the Technical University of Dresden. And as we are kind of having these short talks, and we'll leave some space for discussion afterwards, I would like to simply give the floor or the screen to Reya Saliba, who's working with the learning and student outreach from the library at Weill Cornell Medicine in Qatar. And she'll be sharing with us how flipped classroom is used to promote critical thinking and lifelong learning skills. Reya, please.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Anna. I will start by sharing my screen with you. And good evening. I'm Reya Saliba, Education and Research Librarian at Weill Cornell Medicine, Qatar. I'm very happy to join the Ignite conference in its online format this year. In today's presentation, I will share with you how I use the flipped classroom modality to develop students' critical thinking and lifelong learning skills. But before I delve into the presentation, I would like to give you my definition of the flipped classroom. The flipped classroom is a learner-centered approach in which students are responsible for their learning with the support of the instructor who provides the online content, facilitates the class activities, and helps students become self-directed learners. So the content is delivered online ahead of time from the face-to-face session, while the session is used for hands-on activities, discussions, and to fill any gap in students' knowledge. So what is special about the flipped classroom? The flipped classroom gives you the opportunity to use formative assessment and clarify any obscure content that students did not grasp from the online material. Therefore, class time is used to assess students' acquisition of new knowledge and provide them a scaffolded space to apply these skills collaboratively. In this presentation, I will give you a brief summary of the context, describe the practice, and explore future directions. The context. This is Qatar. I'm from Lebanon, but I've been living and working in Qatar for the last 7 years. I work at Weill Cornell Medicine, which is a branch campus of Weill Cornell Medicine, New York, established in Qatar in 2001. We deliver a 6-year medical program, same Cornell University degree, and we have 23 research labs. Practice. As educators going through the COVID-19 pandemic, technology is our salvation. If we are to stay connected to our students, deliver the education we always wanted to provide, we need to take advantage of this moment in history and embrace the available technology. I want to mention here that the advantage of the flipped classroom in this specific time is that I have already met the students face-to-face and I established a good rapport with them. So working online with them is much more easier now as we reach the end of the academic year. When you think about teaching online, ask yourself, how can I be of help to my students and ensure continuity of curriculum, especially during this time? We are now obliged to reconsider our practice. And by our practice, I don't only refer to content teaching, but also to the pedagogy behind teaching. How are we teaching this specific subject? What else can I incorporate into my curriculum that would enhance students' online learning experience? What content needs to be available as text? What content can be converted to a video? And what content can be designed as infographic or visual aid to help students remember it? From my experience working with Qatari students, it's important to guide them through the process of learning and helping them become responsible for their own learning. The Qatari society, like any Arab society, is different from the Western society. In the US or in Europe, we expect students to be self-directed. However, in Qatar, it's a collaborative culture where people value the presence of the teacher and look at him or her as the source of knowledge. That's why guidance, clear instructions, and continuous communication, especially during the first year of college, as well as the use of different communication channels, are critical to help students grasp the outcome of the curriculum, ensure their success, and start developing their lifelong learning skills. This is the time to embrace this paradigm shift, accept technology, and reconsider our pedagogy. There are 3 elements that ensure the success of the flipped classroom. First, we have the learning management system, which is the platform that hosts the content and facilitates communication. Then we have the content itself that should be designed to cover the outcomes of the curriculum, provide learning supporting materials, and adhere to the principle of course design. And finally, we have the communication that should be kept open, fluid, and especially between instructor and student to student by leveraging different media channels. How do we initiate critical thinking skills in students? This can be done through designing class activities that require higher order thinking skills. The Bloom's online taxonomy is very helpful in providing a framework when creating learning objectives for a specific activity. So when you create your learning objectives for your face-to-face or online class, use this taxonomy. It helps you move beyond lower order thinking skills such as remembering, understanding, and applying, which are very basic, to higher order thinking skills such as analyzing, evaluating, and creating, and therefore developing our students' critical thinking abilities. Class activities that encourage higher order thinking skills include creating a mind map that summarizes the main ideas, developing these ideas based on additional information resources that students can find through the library online databases. Students can also peer review each other essay and provide feedback using a rubric. We can take a piece of current news and critically appraise it by checking facts against other resources. And we can also have the students work in groups to prepare a presentation about current topics. This learning by doing approach helps students put into practice the knowledge they gained from the online modules, learn from each other, share their knowledge, and negotiate meaning. Here's an example of one of the online modules I teach, where students had to read the content, watch the videos, access online resources, and download this checklist. Then students had to submit a practice quiz online, which will allow them to test their knowledge of the subject and prepare them for the graded quiz that they will have to take in the classroom. The class time is used for hands-on activity, where students work in small groups to evaluate a series of popular, scholarly, and peer-reviewed articles, define the scope of the article, the expertise of the author, and the targeted audience. Then groups report back to the class, where we have a discussion and some takeaway points for them to remember. How can we improve the flipped classroom modality in light of COVID-19 pandemic crisis and the surge of online learning? It's important here to differentiate between online learning, that is a well-founded teaching approach with its theories and practice, and what is happening right now, that is an emergency remote teaching and not online learning per se. The future of online learning is now. We need to think about moving from the idea of blended learning to think specifically about synchronous, asynchronous online learning. What content should be taught synchronously, live, and what content can be made available asynchronously. We also need to move from traditional teaching to innovative teaching using design thinking elements in our curriculum. And finally, we need to move from traditional assessment to creative assessment, such as setting up makerspace where students use their talents to translate the knowledge they accrue. In my context, working in a medical college, makerspace is needed in medical education just as much as an anatomy lab. When critical thinking and design thinking are adopted and implemented in the curriculum, be it through online learning, blended learning, flipped classroom, or face-to-face learning, learners will eventually develop a lifelong learning habit that not only supports their need as future medical professionals, but also provides them with the skills they need as global citizens. Here's the resources I have consulted to put together today's presentation. I'm happy to share them with you. And let's keep this conversation going. Here's my LinkedIn, my Twitter account, my email. Thank you for showing up today, and I'm looking forward to the next presentation.
Thank you, Reya. That was an awesome presentation. I think I'm still looking for, there might be a question. Otherwise, I have one question.
Sure.
I think your sort of your approach, which goes through like local educational teaching practices, learning practices, is really interesting. And I would ask you, you put also in your abstract that it takes a bit of learning for the students to get to cope with a flipped classroom environment, some guidance and some clear instructions. How would you build like a trusted space for collaborative learning online?
It's communication. This is the key to create that trust. Having students feel welcome to address their concerns, feel that they are heard, check on them often, and give them detailed instruction of what they need to do. Will make them more comfortable for coming in, using the space, the virtual space, asking questions, and collaborating. So I think it's communication, and it's the role of the instructor to set it up and encourage it.
Yeah, and to facilitate like collaboration and the dialogue going on.
Definitely.
Yeah. I was also interested in, you know, you're pointing to like formative assessment going on also with a creative assessment, creative feedback. taking place from maker spaces. And I've been wondering over the past few weeks how we would like include making into online teaching.
Yes, and this is something that we piloted this year. We had the student come up with visual representation of an experience they had. We have our first year medical students go for shadowing in one of the medical institutions in Qatar. And we wanted them to narrate that experience, but instead of using only words, they also used either video or pictures or drawing. So this is something where they can use their talents to show us that they acquired the knowledge we want them to acquire.
Yeah, exactly. And you can share those kinds of prototypes also online, obviously. I have one last question for you from Islam Nofal. And he writes, you mentioned the Qatari context. Mm-hmm. How do you think this approach consider the Qatari or the Arabic context more than the general design of flipped classroom?
I don't think this is different from the general design of the flipped classroom. This is the same design where you give your lecture or the material that the student needs to know about ahead of time. They do it on their own. And during the classroom, you have that ability to assess if they acquired the knowledge. So it is still in the same spirit of the flipped classroom. But the thing that is different about the culture here is being a collective culture. Students are not used for the self-directed learning. That's why guidance is needed at the beginning. You tell them what they need to do. You explain to them what is expected of them. And you start training them into getting that habit of doing the work on their own. So basically, it's the same thing, but it takes more communication and more guidance from the instructor, especially at the beginning of the semester, and then student will get used to it.
Thank you. I think we should move on now. I have a question, but I think I'll save that. It's a very interesting question on creative assessment versus assessing creativity, but I think we'll come back to that by the end of the session. Thank you, Reya. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce Barbara Heinisch from University of Vienna, who is going to speak to us about co-creation and citizen science for lifelong learning with cultural heritage. Barbara?
Mm-hmm. Hello.
Please. The screen is yours now.
So I hope you can see my presentation. Does it work?
Yes, it works.
It works.
Perfect. So hello, my name is Barbara Heinisch. I'm from the University of Vienna in Austria, and I'm going to talk about citizen science and its most comprehensive form, co-creation, as a form of lifelong learning for cultural heritage. So what I'm going to talk about is first the combination between language and citizen science, the combination between lifelong learning and citizen science, the benefits of citizen science for the participants. Then I'm going to show an example of citizen linguistics. I'll explain it later. And finally, of course, a conclusion shouldn't be missing as well. So language and citizen science. So languages and language varieties, for example, dialects, are considered to be intangible cultural heritage. And since language is used by everybody, which means individuals, communities, and related associations, can actively participate in the preservation of cultural heritage, which means the preservation of language as cultural heritage. And everybody can also help to conduct linguistic research. So what is citizen science? Citizen science is an approach where citizens are participants in academic research, but they are not the subject of investigation, but they are rather collecting data for academic research, or they analyze data for academic research. And co-creation is the most comprehensive form of citizen science, which means the citizens do not only collect data, and the researchers do all the next research steps, for example, analyzing the data, applying methods and interpreting the data, but also being involved in every research step. So also selecting the methods and also interpretation and dissemination of the results. So citizen science, especially co-created citizen science, plays a crucial role in lifelong learning, and especially also for the creation and acquisition of sticky knowledge and competence development. So what are the benefits for the participants if they participate in a citizen science project? What are the lifelong learning benefits, so to say? On the one hand, they of course acquire domain knowledge, which means they get to know the field of the project. That might be linguistics, so they know the basics of linguistics, they might know linguistic landscapes and so on. And they may also acquire a better understanding of science, which means what are the academic principles, why is research important, and so on. They may also develop academic literacy, which means they get an insight into research processes and different steps in the research process. And since co-created citizen science usually addresses the concerns of participants, they may also feel part of the process of discovery or the problem-solving process. So to sum up, through workshops or free learning material that is provided by the project organizers, participants can independently gain the required domain knowledge or the procedural knowledge for a citizen science project. So learning has an added value in a citizen science project if participants can see the actual value of their contributions. These contributions may take the form of contributions to the advancement of knowledge, for example, in academia, if the research actually relates to the everyday life, if the research results are used for evidence-based policymaking, which means decision makers actually take the results of a citizen science project and take decisions on this basis. It is also important to see the added value if you can share your knowledge, which means senior participants might impart their knowledge to new participants in the citizen science project. And it also means that in addition to knowledge co-production and the use of science to solve problems of public concern, citizen scientists may also develop competences that are necessary, for example, for informed decision-making in their everyday lives, and maybe also for the preservation of cultural heritage. So I'm going to show an example of citizen linguistics. As the name suggests, it's about linguistics, and the project is entitled On Everyone's Mind and Lips, German in Austria. And as you can imagine, it addresses the German language and its varieties in Austria. And in this project, citizens were tasked with asking research questions about the German language in Austria. And ideally, they should not only ask research questions, but also find an answer to their own research questions, being supported by researchers, of course. So the co-created approach to citizen science, or in this case, rather citizen humanities, was, as mentioned before, that citizens ask, which means raise research questions and answer the research questions about the topic German language. This format was called Question of the Month. And according to a predefined structure that reflects all the steps in the research process, the citizens were asked to answer the research questions. So what is the structure about? It's about why did you choose this research question? Which method did you select? What is the result? And so the participants should provide an answer to their own question. And here is an example from one of the few persons actually willing to go through the entire research process. And her research question was, where does the word Gulasch come from? A collage is a type of pastry, very popular in Austria. But the name is not really German, so to say. That's why the question from the origin is very important. And through this type of co-created citizen humanities, lifelong learning could be supported. The question of the month format is a combination of the acquisition of domain knowledge on the one hand and the acquisition of academic literacy on the other. Which means when going through the question of the month structure, participants have to address and apply academic methods. They have to apply academic reasoning and of course also academic writing. And therefore we could observe a combination of project-based and problem-based learning in co-created citizen humanities. And this combination of project-based and problem-based learning may also enhance the acquisition of sticky knowledge. So what is the conclusion? What is the impact of citizen science in general, and what is the impact of citizen science in the area of lifelong learning? As we have seen, participants can acquire domain knowledge, which means in the field they're actually working, for example, in linguistics, and of course also procedural knowledge. So how does research actually work? What are the different steps? How to select a method, and so on. And the results of a citizen science project and the results the citizens actually created may also influence evidence-based policymaking. So there is a knowledge co-production between the researchers and the citizens. And ideally, co-created citizen science, or in this case, citizen humanities, should the use of academic research should solve problems of public concern. So the competences and also the sticky knowledge acquired through citizen science may lead to informed decision-making in their everyday lives. And in the best way, it may also help to raise awareness for the importance of the preservation of cultural heritage. And as I've shown, the cultural heritage of language in particular. So thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Barbara. That was a really interesting presentation. I'm looking if I have a question for you from the audience. I don't have that yet. So I would very much want to praise sort of the approach of co-creation for creating citizens' agency as well, sort of for informed decision-making, things like that, and for engaging with heritage. I was thinking for the particular example you gave on citizens' humanities, how did you engage with the citizens, or how do you onboard them into this?
So our first attempt was to gather all these research questions and to recruit citizen scientists through our website, so rather online. But unfortunately, it didn't prove as successful as we wanted it to be. And the most successful way of gathering all these research questions were actually science communication festivals. So for example, in Austria, there is the Long Night of Research, similar to the Researchers' Night. And there we got a lot of questions. So people entered our booth and they had a lot of questions about the topic of language, actually.
Yeah, I can share with you perhaps that one of the most frequently used, that's more like an outreach or knowledge sharing application, used applications for also for young people in Denmark is our dialects map. So I think there is a huge interest about around this, and also I would think around contributing to that. Could you maybe comment on what would the takeaways from citizen science be for more like on-campus teaching and student learners?
You mean how to use citizen science in academic research, or no?
Yeah. I think maybe some what you put forward as benefits promised for the citizens who engage in this. Which I think there could be some learning, some takeaways for the way we conduct on-campus teaching.
So basically, we saw that if the citizens had answers, they had questions, they also wanted to get the answers from the researchers right away. So it was very interesting to see that they don't accept research gaps. So the researchers are the experts and they should already know the answer. So there is very interesting that academic literacy, or that that there is not an answer to every question. It was very important to see, so that not only being in the communication field, so the gap between laypersons and experts, but it is very important to talk on an equal eye level. So it's that's what we saw. Yeah.
I think that is maybe also an interesting takeaway for the way we approach scientific expertise in these days with the COVID-19 crisis. I have a question for you from Eslam Nofal, who says, for me, the term citizen science is quite new. How do you relate this field to the field of participatory design?
Yes, there is a huge discussion going on about what is the difference between citizen science and also participatory research. So I personally would say the difference is rather citizen science evolved in the natural sciences, and the participatory research is rather emerged in the social sciences. But it actually is about involving citizens in academic research. But participatory research or participatory design is rather about giving the participants a say in a lot of steps. Whereas in citizen science, as I've tried to show, there are different degrees of involvement, from the simple involvement, just data collecting, for example, going outside and taking pictures of written information in the public space. So posters, stickers, whatever. So just data collection. But there are also other degrees where they can also have the same other research steps. And I think in participatory design or participatory research, it's rather about having a say in a lot of these steps.
Thank you so much. I think
Thank you very much.
Barbara, there is a question here for you from Sarah. Which is, did you try to measure the knowledge and benefits acquired by users? Did you use a questionnaire, which actually, again, also reference what Martin has just been put forward as a method of doing this?
Yes, that's one of our next steps, definitely, to actually operationalize all these findings, yes.
Yeah. And maybe also just to follow up, there was a question from Islam Nofal for you as well, how the citizens were informed about the results of the project.
There were different, it depended actually on the participants themselves. So those participants that were raising the questions during these science communication events, they either got an answer to the questions right away. So if the experts already knew the answer, and otherwise we informed them that there is our website and they can be informed about their website and social media and so on. And those who were really willing to go through all the research steps, of course, they were informed all the time, yes.
Thank you. I don't have any more open questions now from the participants. I don't know, Costa is guarding our Twitter account. Whether you have any questions or comments from the Twitter account?
No, there are no questions at the moment from Twitter, although there has been quite a bit of interaction on the topics.
Okay. I have a question from Nimrat Seed, who says, it's for Barbara. Barbara mentioned citizen science has its root in natural sciences, and since this has been a new term for me as well, I was wondering if the concept has trickled into other disciplines as well beyond the natural sciences.
Definitely. So citizen science is really used now for any discipline. So really from natural sciences, also in social sciences, you find the term citizen as citizen social science. And here you can also find the term citizen humanities. So it really has evolved also in any discipline you may think of. Yes, that's true.
Okay, no more questions. I want to thank our wonderful speakers today. Thank you so much for being with us, Reya, Barbara, and Martin. I want to thank all our participants. And obviously, I want to thank the team, all my colleagues on Ignite, and I want to thank Anna, last but not least, for keeping the house so tidy and for being such a wonderful host for us. Thank you so much, and hopefully we will meet again next Wednesday.